Hey, Brother John, thank you for coming to share the Völuspá, which is, you can explain, if you'd explain to the folks a little bit about it, and then whenever you want to, tell us it.
Hi, the Völuspá is the first book in Poetic Edda, which is about Norse mythology. It was written in Iceland about 1,000 years ago. Völuspá is from earlier oral poetry that was passed down from pre-Christian people in Scandinavia.
Sure. I came across a couple different versions of it. It's probably been translated different ways.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you'd like the audience to consider when you're reading?
No.
We just want people to just listen to it and let it speak for itself.
Yes.
Okay, Brother John, whenever you'd like, go ahead and just take it away.
The first line. Hearing I ask from all the tribes, greater and lesser, the offspring of my doll. Founder of this land, you wish me well to declare living beings, ancient stories, those I remember from furthest back. I remember giants born early in time, those nurtured me long ago. I remember 9 worlds. I remember 9 giant women. The mighty measuring tree below the earth. Early in time, a mere native settlement. There was no sand, nor sea, nor cool waves. Earth was nowhere, nor sky above. The void of yawning chaos. Grass was there nowhere. Before the sun's burr brought up the land surface, those who shaped glorious Midgard. The sun shone from the south on the stone wall, then the ground was growing over with the green leaf. From the south, the sun, companion of the north, through her right hand round the sky's edge. The sun did not know where she had her home. The stars did not know where they had their stations. The moon did not know what might he had. Then all the powers went to the thrones of fate. The sacrosanct gods considered this. To night and their children they gave names. Morning they named it midday. Afternoon and evening to reckon up in years. The Seer met up in a wall plain. High they built altars and temples. They set up their forges, smithed precious things, shaped tongs, and made tools. They played checkers in the meadow. They were merry. They did not lack for gold at all, until 3 older girls came, all powerful women, out of giant land. Then all the powers went to the thrones of fate, the sacrosanct gods, and considered this. Who should create the Lord of the Dwarfs? Out of Brenir's blood and from Blaine's limbs. There, Sagnir became most famous of all dwarfs. And Durin next, many man-like figures of dwarfs made. Under the earth, as Durin recounted. New moon and darkened moon, north and south, east and west. Master thief, Dwalin, Vivor, Bafnor, Bomber, and Nari, Anna and Anar, great grandfollowing Wolf, Liquor and Stomp, Elf, Wind Elf and Three, Nolan and Thorin, Thror, Color and Wise, corpse of new advice, now I have right wing. Regan and Council Clever reckoned up the force. Philly and Killy, Foundling and Nolly, Afton, Billy, Hanar and Swire, Frar and Hornball, Craig and Seapool, Lonefield, Diary, Oakenshield. Time it is to tally up the doors, Dwallin's troop, for the children of men to trace them back to Low Farm, those who sought out for our small stone, the dwelling of Lonefield on Euro Elder. There were drought near dog grassier, gray hair, bounder, leaf lane, glow, scurvier, burbier, Scaffield, and great grandfather. Elf and Digby, Oakenshield, Fjallar, Frosty, Finn and Ginnar, they'll be remembered all the world endures. The long list of ancestors going back to Low Farm. Still three gods, strong and loving, came out from that company, found a land capable of the ash and nebula blackening fate. Breath they had not, spirit they had not, one nor bearing nor fresh complexions. Breath gave Odin, spirit gave Hadir, blood gave Loder, and fresh complexions. The ash I know that stands on grass hill is called the tall tree, drenched with shining low. From there come the dews which fall in the valley, green stands all over, burns well. From there come girls, knowing a great deal. Tree from the lake standing under the tree. Bird one is called, bird Andy another. They carved on a wooden slip. Skull the third. They laid down rules. It shows lines for the sons of men, fates of men. Few remembers the first war in the world when they struck Goldegg. The spears and the highlands fall, they burned her. 3 times they burned her, 3 times she was reborn, over and over, but she was still. Right when they called her, wherever she came to houses, Seer, with pleasing prophecies. She practiced spirit magic. She knew side she performed as she liked. She was always a wicked woman's favorite. Then all the powers went to the thrones of fate, sacrosanct gods considered this. Whether the Seer should yield a tribute, or whether all the gods should share sacrificial feast. Odin hurled a spear, sped it into the host. That was worse still, the first in the world. The wooden rampart of the Seer stronghold was wrecked. The Vanir, with the war spell, kept on trampling the plain. Then all the powers went to the thrones of fate, sacrosanct gods, and considered this. Most people had trouble to air treachery, giving Od's girl to the giant race. 4 alone struck a blow near, soul with rage. Simple sit still when he hears such a thing. Oaths broke apart, words and promises. All the song pledges such a path between them. She knows a Heimdall's hearing is hidden under the bright growing sacred tree. She sees flowing down the lone-filled flood from Father of the Slain's pledge. Do you want to know more? What? Alone she sat outside of the old man cave, terrible one of the Seer, and he looked in her eyes. Why do you question me? Why do you test me? I know all about it, Odin, where you hid your eye in Mimir's famous well. Mimir drinks meat every morning from Father of the Slain's pledge. Do you want to know more? Father of hosts chose for her rings of necklaces, treasure, wise speech, and spirits of divination. She saw widely about everyone. She saw Valkyries coming from far and wide, ready to ride to the gods realm. Gold-shouldered, one shield, Skogul and another. Gun, Hild, Condor, and Gear Skogul. Now the generals, ladies of Canada, Valkyries, ready to ride over the earth. Saw for Balder, for the bloody god, Odin's child, his fate in store. There stood growing higher than the plain, slender, very fair to listen to. From that stem, which seemed so slender, there came a dangerous, brief dart. Odds started to shoot. Balder's brother was born quickly. Odin's son started killing at 1 night old. He never washed his hands and combed his ear until he brought Balder's adversary to the funeral pyre. And in Fen Hall's Frigg webbed for Valhall's role. He wants no more blood. The captives he saw lying in their cauldron grove. The evil living figure, unmistakable as Loki. There sits Sigurd, getting very little joy from her husband. Do you want to know more than what? From the east there flows through poison valleys of rivers, knife and swords, fearful it is cold. To the north there stood on darkened moon plains, a hall of gold, of Sindri's lineage. Another stood on Nevercold, the beer hall of a giant called Brennier. The hall she saw standing far from the sun on corpse strand, stores of dark, poison drops fall in through the rich vents. The hall is woven of serpent spines. There she saw waiting in turbid streams, false oath swearers, murderers, and the seducer of another man's false confident. There did hog sucks the corpses of the dead, the wolf tears of men, grunts no more blood. In the east sat killed woman iron, but gave birth there to Fenrir's offspring. One of them in cold shape shall be snatched of the moon. It gluts itself on doomed men's lives, spreads the god stories of the Christian. But sunshine becomes black all the next summers, whether all vicious judge no more blood. The sound of the mountain struck his heart. Giantesses herdsmen, cheerful anchor. Near him crowed in gallows wood, that bright red rooster who was called Fjallar. Golden calm crowed near the Seer. He wakens warriors and father of hope song. And other crows blow the earth, sooty red cock in the halls of hell. Garm bays loudly toward Nippa cave. The fetter will break in the rapier and trade. Much wisdom she knows I see further ahead to the mighty doom of the gods and the future of gods. Brother will fight brother, be it slayer, sisters, sons of violent kinship bond. Hard it is in the world, boredom that balance, tax, age, shields are cleft asunder, wind, age, all phase, before the world plunges headlong. No man will spare another. Sons of him are at play, and Asian trees kindle, at the resounding Gjallar horn. Irondoll blows loudly as horns in the air, Thorn speaks with men's head. The ancient tree grooms, the giant lets loose. Aggressive shudders, the tree standing upright. Algar bays loudly before the cave. The fetter will break, and the raven will entry much wisdom she knows. I see further ahead, mighty doing the gods of the victory gods. The rang drives from the east, heaves his shield before him. The great serpent rides in giant rage. The serpent churns and waves, eagle shrieks, anticipation. Pale deep tears, of course, Naglfar wakes. The ship journeys from the east, Muspel's troops are coming over the ocean, then Loki steers. All the giant sons advance along the river. My life's brother goes in company with them. What disturbs the Seer, what disturbs the hills, all giant lands roaring, he's here in council. Doors groan before their running doors. Wise ones of the mountain wall, judge in the warrior butt. Sir comes from the south with branches ruin. The slaughter god's son lances from his sword. Hockey cliffs flash together. The troll women are abroad. Heroes tread hell road. Sky splits apart. Then Freig's second sorrow comes about when Odin advances to fight against the wolf. bellied sprites layer insert. Then Frigg's dear beloved must fall. Then comes their Frigg father's strong son, Vidar, to battle the beast of slaughter. With his hand he sends the Loki son's heart. This sword is stabbed, then his father is fetched. Then comes Woden's glorious boy, Odin's son, advances to fight the serpent. He strikes in wrath, Midgard's protector, all menless the pan of his homestead. 9 steps, Fjorgen's child takes, exhausted from the serpent, and fears no shame. The sun turns black, land sinks into the sea, the bright stars vanish from the sky, and steam rises up at the conflagration. Hot flame plays high against ten of itself. Now Garm bays loudly before into the cave. Shutter will break and the raven runs free. Much wisdom she knows. I see further ahead to the mighty doom of the gods and the victory gods. She sees coming up a second time, earth from the ocean, eternally green, waterfalls plunge, eel soars above them, over the mountain hunting fish. The Seer find one another in bit of all. They convince about the mighty earth girdler, simple tears, ancient roots. There will be found again in the grass the wonderful building checkers, those they possess in the bygone days. Without scouring the fields of growth, all you will be healed. Boy will come, on the Balder will settle down. Corrupts, victory homesteads. Slaughter gods are well, join some one life. Then Aenir will choose a wooden slip of prophecy. 2 brothers, sons, build a settlement, a line. The wind renowned judgment Lord left. The hall she sees standing, fair in the sun, matches gold at Gimli. There are the noble bonds, noble fighting bands, old Dell. Enjoy the days of Eliza's pleasure. There comes the shadow of dark dragonfly, two-winged serpent, up from darker moon hills. The dog flies from the plain, in his pinions he carries corpses. Now she will and see it.
Bless you, Brother John. Appreciate that. Appreciate you sharing it. I was interested in listening to some of the images. There's Christian, Jewish, Muslim, and Buddhist parallels and Hindu parallels to some of the images, including the resurrecting woman figure, the goddess mother, who's dealing with a dragon like a snake dealing as an enemy. I really appreciate this because it continues to show kind of beautiful spirituality in many cultures and many expressions of goddess and God and those kind of concepts that we've been talking about. So thank you so much for sharing that, John, Brother John. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Is there anything you wanted to say, for us to think about at the end of it, or how do you feel?
About the beginning of the world to the end of the world. Boldly is narrated by the Seeress, a woman who can see the future.
I see. And this is part of the larger Elder Edda, correct?
Yes.
It's interesting because in the Mahabharata of India, there's a very many volumes, but the Bhagavad Gita is a really small part of it that condenses a lot of the wisdom. Does this have a similar relationship to the Elder Edda? But what I mean to say is this focused in a particular way, like this particular prophecy?
There might be some connection between things in the Völuspá and some things in the ancient Hindu text.
Were Yeah, I mean, if you go back far enough, there's a lot of similarity between, say, the Germanic languages, Latin, and eventually Sanskrit is kind of a mother language to a lot of European languages. So I just think of it interesting that, like, it's not like we're saying the same story over and over, but we're kind of all developing, the different cultures are developing different views of similar mysteries. And I really appreciate you were able to bring this to us.
Yeah, do you have any more questions?
Not right now, but if it's okay, maybe we could keep this conversation open, and maybe in a week or two or a few weeks or sometime at your convenience, we could talk more about the Völuspá and other scriptures that you'd like to bring.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Well, Brother John, perhaps I'll let you go for now, and I'll be setting up this into a video, and I'll let you know when it's available.
Okay.
Bless you, friend. Blessed be.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.